The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive and creation energy to all the students of the Organic African Paradigm teachings. Tai and Ma'at to all of you. Ankh and Ubuntu to all of you. And Madi and Sia to all of you. Menkutet Kemati, Sekem, and Sek Uten. Okay, I'm going to do a lecture for all of you. And today we are going to go into the story for today. So um, let's go straight. I don't have much time, so I want to try to get the lecture done quickly. So today's lecture, today's African story. Remember, we are in this book. So today we are going to go to page. What page are we going to go to? Let me see the page we are page 138. So page 138, it's Zimbabwe. The story is Zimbabwe. Mwari, the creator in this part of the story is called Mwari. Mwari allows the first man to go to Earth. So that's what the story is titled. Makoni slash Zimbabwe, the Makoni people in Zimbabwe. So this is where the story today's our story is gonna focus. So Makoni, Mwari is the creator god. In the beginning, Mwari created the first man, Mwetsi, the moon. Initially, he installed Mwetsi in the depths of the sea, giving him a horn filled with oil. When Mwetsi told God, which is Mwari, that he wished to live on earth, Mwari allowed him to do so, but warned him that death would be the result. When he moved to earth, Mwetsi found nothing. He complained. Mwari sent him a woman, Masasi, okay? The woman is called Masasi, the morning star. Mwari gives her fire and told Mwetsi that she would remain with him for 2 years. They went into a cave, and Masasi made fire with implements given to her by Mwari. Mwetsi, uncertain as to why God sent him a woman, touched the oil with his finger and then touched Masasi with that finger. The next morning, Masasi was pregnant and gave birth to plants and trees that cover the earth. The two were happy, building their home, trapping, and growing food. When 2 years had passed, Mwari took Masasi away, and for 8 years, Mwetsi mourned as Mwari reminded him of how he had warned him about moving to the earth. Now, Mwari sent another woman, Morongo, the evening star, and said she could stay for 2 years with Mwetsi. Mwetsi touched Morongo with his oil finger, but she said that he must have intercourse with her. This Mwetsi did, and Morongo gave birth to the animals of creation. Later, she gave birth to human boys and girls who grew quickly, and Mwari sent a storm, warning Mwetsi that death would be the result of all this activity. Morongo had Mwetsi build a door so Mwari could not see what they were doing, and they continued to sleep together against Mwari's command. Then Morongo gave birth to dangerous animals, lions, leopards, scorpions, snakes. Under Morongo's guidance, Mwetsi had relations with his daughters, and they bore children, becoming the mother of the people. Mwetsi became the Mambo, the leader of his people. One night, Morongo coupled with a snake, and when Mwetsi wished to sleep with her, she was reluctant. Mwetsi insisted, And in the night, his wife's snake lover bit him, and he became ill. Rivers and fruits of the earth dried up, animals and people died, and the people learned that only if Muetsi was to be sent back to the depths of the sea would things improve. So his children killed him and buried him along with Morongo, and death had came, as Muari had said. But Muetsi, the moon, rises from the sea each day, pursuing Masasi, the morning star, across the sky. So that is today's story. The good thing about today's story, the what makes today's story, this is one of the most rich story when it comes to African stories. The thing about this story, someone reading this story might just automatically think that this story, oh, you know, he's talking about, like, okay, let me show you some of the clues. Okay, first thing here is the creator is called Muari. The second thing here is in the beginning, Muari created the first man. So we have the first man. Okay, then we have Muetsi, which is the first man, but the first man is given the title of the moon. The first man is called the moon. So the first, this is a clue for Africans, for you to grasp your ancestral perspective. The first man is called the moon. So that is a key factor in understanding what happened in the beginning. The first thing was the moon. Okay. And the moon is very instrumental in African Sankofa. People don't know that the moon is the most important symbol in African Sankofa. People like to say in ancient Egypt, they talk about the sun god, Ra, Ra, Ra. That is not necessarily true. The moon, I remember someone once asked me, he said, how is it in ancient Kemet, everything is about Ra, but they talk about the sun, but they never talk about the moon. That is not true. They talk about the moon, but the people who are translating the story, they don't know that, they don't know they don't know the difference. They don't know how to distinguish when the moon is being talked about. They have no clue. But the moon is talked about a lot more in Kemet than the sun. The sun is understood, the sun is known, right? But the moon is constantly talked about. So this is key for you to understand in the story here. The first man is the moon initially. So he installed Muetsi in the depths of the sea. So it tells you now when the first human being was created, he was put in the sea. He was placed in the ocean, the waters. He was not on land. He was not on earth. And this goes to what the Hindus say. The Hindus have a version of Vishnu called Nayana, 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 or Narayan, or something like that. This version of Vishnu is laying on the ocean, on the cosmic ocean. There is no land for him to stay on. There is no land. The first version of Vishnu is in the waters. There is no land for him to stay on or for him to be on. So this is key. The African said that the first man is placed in the water. And this is very important for people to learn, like about the African perspective. So he is installed in the depths of the sea, giving him a horn filled with oil. Now, the oil is what in Africa we call anointing. Now, here's the thing that you don't know. In Africa, the oil is called a medicine or an anointing. It means a blessing or like a spiritual gift. That's what the oil symbolizes. Now, the word Christ or Christ, Christo or Christ, it means oil in the Kemetic or in the Greco language. If you look at the word Christ, it means to anoint or oil, right? And the specific oil they are talking about, there is a deity in Kemet named Shemsu or Shamzu. Shemsu is the Lord of oil. This particular oil is called the anointing oil, the crystal oil. This oil is what people call Christ. Every time in Africa, when a child was born, they would wash the baby and they will rub the baby with this particular oil, signifying the blessing of the family, signifying the blessings. The child has been giving blessing. The child has been received well. So it's very, very important that Africans, you know what these terminologies used to mean. Yes, they now Christ, the word Christ means a man or deity associated with Jesus Christ. But in the ancient time, in ancient Kemet, the word Christ does not mean a person. It means oil, like oil that you rub on a child when the child is born, especially when the baby is born. Out of the baby is washed for the first time, and they put the oil on the baby. That oil, the first oil they put on the baby when the baby is born, that oil is called Christ. It's called Christ. Somehow over time, the word Christ has positive and creation to you, Abigail. Welcome. She's my favorite. Okay. Our sister Abigail has a YouTube channel, Abigail Lucy Mary. It's you'll find it somewhere on the channel here somewhere. Make sure you go there. It's the one channel that I have on my feed for news, for things on Africa. So I have it on my thing, and anytime I have the hype button on my YouTube, I always hype anything I get from her channel. So anyway, let me continue the story. So in Africa, oil is something that they rub on the baby when the baby is born. The first oil they put on a baby when a baby is born, this is called the Christ. This is the Christ. This is the anointing. Somehow the Greeks, this oil that they would put on your head or your foot or something, the Greeks come to look at this oil and they came to give it a name, Christ. All right, the anointing, the anointed, the blessed one. This went on to become what people later found to be called the Messiah. Okay, in Africa, we've always had the oil since the beginning of time, and this is in the story here. The oil when Mwetsi, let's continue here. It says, Mwetsi, the moon, initially he installed Mwetsi in the depths of the ocean. He gave him a horn filled with oil. When Mwetsi told the Mwari he wished to live on earth, Mwari allowed him to do so, but warned him that living on earth would lead to death. When he moved to earth, he was alone, so Mwari sent him a woman. The woman is called the morning star. So this is another key thing that you need to understand as an African. The African tell you that the woman that was sent is called the morning star. Why is it the morning star is so instrument in African astrology, astronomy, etc.? There is a whole lecture I could do about explaining what the morning star is and what the evening star is, and how they factor into agriculture. We would have to do a whole lecture talking about the planet Venus and the morning star and the evening star and how everything adds up. But the morning star lasts in the sky or the dawn next to the sun. It rises next to the sun for 9 months of the year. The morning star will rise and it will stay in the heavens for 9 months. Then the morning star will disappear. The morning star will rise in the evening or next to the sunset, and it will stay there for another 9 months. And when it's done, it will go into the underworld and it will rise up again and stay for 9 months. What in our ancestral system, the 9 months that the morning star is in the sky, they associate that 9 months with the pregnancy. They associated that 9 months with pregnancy. So specifically, when the morning star is in the sun, in the sunrise, the morning, when it's a morning star, the planet Venus, it's associated with plants. It's associated with animals. The planet Venus influence on planet Earth. It impacts animals, not animals, plants. It impacts plants, specifically plants. When the planet Venus is in the evening star, it impacts animals, right? Certain things. That's the ancient African. Every 8 years, they would celebrate the Venus synodic cycle, where the Venus, the Earth, they would form this five-pointed star in their synodic. When they meet, all of them aligned, they form this alignment. The African would celebrate something called the Farmer's Year. The Farmer's Year is it's a spiritual year that has to do with agriculture. So the story that they're telling you here, the first woman comes to planet Earth, Masasi, the morning star, and God gives her fire. And then Moari told her, and she remained with, and what did she create? She is the one who gave birth to agriculture. She is the one who gave birth to plants. She is the one who gave birth to the things that the millet, the sorghum. So the first woman was the agriculture. The first woman, not the first man. The first woman was the one who brought agriculture. She did not just bring agriculture, she brought fire. Fire is what? Fire in Africa symbolized knowledge. Fire in Africa symbolized civilization. So the first woman in this story embodies civilization. She embodies agriculture. She embodies a lot of these things, and she's called the morning star. She's associated with the planet Venus. The second woman is called the evening star, and she is in the west, and she associated with death. She symbolized winter, etc., and all those type of stuff. So we'll talk more about that, but that's not why we are here. Now, Africa, the continent, they have their own version of things. They have their own astronomy, they have their own astrology, they have their own zodiac, they have their own everything. Africans do not know this. Africans are not familiar with their own zodiac, their own astrology, their own astronomy. Even though they don't know it, it is extremely, extremely accurate. The African astronomy, their zodiac, they are extremely, extremely accurate, right? And the reason that Africans don't use it anymore is because of all the corruption. And here, one corruption I'm going to show you today. I'm going to explain a single corruption to you. The word Ethiopia. So every African, who has read, if you've read anything, you will find out that the word Ethiopia, they'll ask you, what does the word Ethiopia mean? And every single African will tell you the word Ethiopia means a burnt face. Every African will tell you that the word Ethiopia means burnt face. But why would they tell you that the word Ethiopia means burnt face? Where did they get this idea that the word Ethiopia means burnt face? Now, any African who goes and who reads on the internet, you go and you read Wikipedia, you go and read anything that's written by modern Greek scholars, you are going to hear them say Ethiopia means the origin of the word Ethiopia means burnt face. But here I'm going to tell you that the word Ethiopia does not mean burnt face. For those of you who do not know this, Ethiopia, the word Ethiopia, does in no way, shape, or form mean burnt face. It does not mean burnt face. What does the word Ethiopia actually mean? The word Ethiopia actually means, it comes from a word, a Kemetic word for the same lady that we just talked about. So, what did the Greeks think about the Ethiopians? Did they think the Ethiopians were burnt when they first saw them? Did they feel like, oh, these people are, repulsive to look at? Was that the impression that the Greeks had when they first came across the Ethiopians? No. The Greeks, this is a description of the Ethiopians. The term Ethiopians come from the Greek Ethiopia, meaning the burnt face, referring to people with dark complexion and often curly hair. Now, this is what every one of you know, but this is a falsehood. This is something that was created in the 1800s. This is a translation that was created in the 1800s by the Near North people. The original, what the Greeks originally taught about the ancient Africans, how they originally described the ancient African as, it described them as noble spirits. They described the ancient Africans as noble spirits. They didn't call them burnt face, right? And I will tell you what the word the Greeks used to for burnt. When something is burnt, right? There's a word that the Greeks use, and then when there's something for the word face, there's also a word that the Greeks use. But the Greeks do not use the word um, burnt face for to mean Ethiopian. That is not true. This is during the time of the Berlin Conference, when the Europeans were, near North people were very, very, they were very, I guess you call it like they hated the Africans. So in order for them to show their disdain for the Africans, they wanted to show how, anything good about the Africans, they made it bad. So they came up with the word Ethiopia, and they said that the word Ethiopia was also something bad. Now, I want to first give you more Greek, what the Greeks said. You can find these stories in the Greek mythologies, okay? What the Greeks actually said. Now, Epaphus' mother was low, and through Sa brother with his wife Memphis, he had a daughter named Libya. So the father of Libya, the parent of Libya is called Epaphus. Epaphus. Libya, the country that you call Libya, or the people of the Libyan country, their ancestor is called Epaphus. Epaphus, right? So while some accounts add that one who bore Lysania, or these daughters later became the mothers of Poseidon's son Belus Agenor, possibly with the former, while Busiris was born to the latter. These daughters, Epaphus was the ancestor of the dark Libyans and the high soul Ethiopian. So here is it right here. They said Epaphus was the ancestor of the dark Libyans and the high soul Ethiopians. So the Greeks do not call them, they do not insult the Africans. The Greeks do not insult the Africans. They said the dark Libyans. The Greeks described them as Epaphus. Epaphus is the ancestor of the dark Libyans. So the Greeks know the difference between dark and black. They have a comprehension. They know. The Greeks know. That's the first thing you need to know. The second thing is, how did the Greeks describe the Ethiopian? Continue in the passage. The high-souled Ethiopian, noble people, the noble Ethiopians. The Greeks called them the noble, the beautiful noble Ethiopians. Two things. The Greeks know how to say dark. They know what burnt is, and then they know what beautiful is. And they call the Ethiopians beautiful, high soul people. They did not call them burnt face people. For those of you who don't read the books like Theogony. If you've never read Theogony, if you've never read Homer's Odyssey, you will not understand the level of description that the Greeks have to themselves. The Greeks do not call Africans burnt people or burnt face. No, the Greeks know what a black person is, what a dark person is. They call the dark Libyans and the high-souled Ethiopians dark. It does not in no way, shape, or form mean burnt-faced people. Now let's continue. The Twa people, the Greeks go on to say that in ancient Libya, there were black people, and across Ethiopia, the Ethiopians, and then underground people, or the Twa people, the forest people. All of these people were in that area, that vicinity. The Greeks go on to describe them. Okay, so that's one thing that we can say the Greeks, they knew how to tell a person's skin tone. They were not confused about skin tone. Now let's continue here. I want to again, the Greeks, in the next one here, it says, a mythical tribe only later identified with the people of the South Egypt, not certainly before the Hecateus. Even though they are associated with the Libyans, the Melanese people. So for those of you who don't know what the name, what the word melanin, where the word melanin comes from, melanin means black. Melanin means black, right? Melas means black or dark people. So again, anytime the Greeks use the word melas, melanin, melas, melanin, melasi, Melanesian, all of these words means black or dark peoples. So the Greeks have a word to describe a black person. They have words to describe black people. They do not hesitate to use black anytime in the Odyssey. If you read all their books, the Greeks constantly use the word black or dark, or but the Greeks, anytime you ask, oh, what the word Ethiopian means, they always say it means burnt face. For those of you who believe that, you are miseducated and you are misinformed. Okay? So in Hesiod and the days, it described the soul of the people, the golden age, the guardians, etc. So what is this one talking about? They literally, everything that the Greeks associated with the Africans, when they are talking about the Africans, they do not say anything negative. They speak to the Africans with profound respect. So whenever you are trying to be very authentic about what the Greeks said, what this means, or this, that, you need to go back and read the works of the Greeks. And it's a shame that Africans will not take the time to go read these things, and they will hear what racist people had to say, and they will go by it. Okay, so let's continue here. I want to find the word ethusa, the word ether, ethusa. These words existed in the ancient Greek. The word ether, ethusa, Ethiopia, ether. All these words exist. They do not mean burnt. The word ether, ethio, does not mean burnt. It actually means bright. The word ether actually means something bright, the bright-faced people. So anytime they are describing Africans, if they're saying, referring to African, they will say the bright-faced people, the people with light on their face, the people with light on their face. That's what they would be saying. They would not be calling the Africans any derogatory term. So the word Ethiopia, for those of you who have been taught that the word Ethiopia or ether, it means something, a burnt face, you have been miseducated, you have been misinformed, mistaught. If you go read any of these are pages I took out of the Theogony. I took it directly out of Hesiod's Theogony, and everything that they say, they never mention anything about insulting the black people or the Africans. They mention the Ethiopians. They talk about Eos being the son of the mother of Memnon, and Memnon being the king of the Ethiopians. And then they go on to say the Ethiopians live in the upper world, the upper heavens. They live in, they are called the bright-faced people, the people with light on their face. But they never ever called them burnt face. Now, in Greek, in the Greek language, what does the word burnt refer to? So So the Greeks say the origin and the meaning of the name Ethiopia or Ethiopia, the origin or the meaning of the word Ethiopia, the name in, if we translate it into the Egyptian language or the Kemetic Meduneter, the word is not Ethiopia. If we now take that word and we translate it, forget the Mycenaean, all these other stuff there. Let's go straight down to the original, like the original Kemetic language. In the original Kemetic language, the word is not Ethiopia, or the word is not Ethiopia or Ether. The word is A Thi Upet. It's called A Thi Upet. It's three phrases. A means great, Thi means sage, and Upet means who brought the fire. The great sage, A meaning A, Thi means a sage, someone who brought knowledge, and then Upet means the woman who brought the fire, the woman who brought agriculture, the woman who brought farming. So A, Thi, Upet is whom the continent was named after. It was named after this particular person called Ati Upet, the morning star. This was where the name of the African continent, Ethiopia, the word Ethiopia initially came from. It did not come from the Greek saying a burnt face, etc. So the word here, eth in Greek, eth means heaven or bright, or it means upper sky. For the word theo means divine or superhuman. So I told you the last time, means divine or superhuman, or like divinities. That's what theo means. Pia means the utmost. Piat means the high, right? Utmost. So Ethiopia would still not mean the burnt face because of the way it works. No matter if you put it in the Greek language, you would still not get this terminology. Now, I'm going to now find the Greek word for burnt. I'm going to show you what the Greeks, when they use the word burnt, what is the Greek use. So I'm going to show you that so you can see for yourself. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, here we go. You're going to learn something new today. Okay, the Greek word burnt, okay, the Greek word for an entirely burnt offering. So if you want to know how the Greeks say burnt, the word burnt, you go to look up how they say burnt offering, okay? So let's start with that. Burnt, when the Greeks use the word burnt, when something is burnt, like a burnt offering or something that is burnt, here's how they say it. So the Greek word for an entirely burnt offering is holokauston, holokauston, or holocautoma. holocautoma, literally translating to holy burnt. This term refers to religious sacrifice, etc., right? So Greeks, when they use the word burnt, they do not use anything, any letter with E or something like that, right? If you go and do the, how do you call it? Let me if you go use Wiktion, they call it Wikitionary, you are going to see this is a two word. One means whole and the other word refers to burnt. But neither of them has any other thing to do with the word Ethiopia, okay? The Greek word for face is prosopon, right? Or another term is opsis, right? So the Greek word for a face and the Greek word for burnt has nothing. There's no place where they come together and they form the word Ethiopia. There's no point in anywhere where Greek used the word Ethiopia, meaning burnt face. But Africans, you're not going to go and do the research. You're not going to go and read. You're not going to go and open the book. You're not going to do none of these things. The first thing you're going to do is if you go Google it, you're going to see somebody saying Ethiopia means burnt face. In your brain, once they say it means burnt face, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say well, Ethiopia means burnt face. Ethiopia does not mean burnt face. When did the near north, the colonial empire, started to translate all the Greek books? They all started, the Greek books were all translated in the 1800s. All the Greek books were translated in the 1800s. That's when they were translated. And they were translated by a generation of people that hated African people. They did not like black people. They did not, they hated them. So when they were translating it, they found words like the Greek saying, oh, these are high spirit, the high soul people. What does high soul people mean? Why do they call the Ethiopians the high soul people? High soul means people who are pure, people whose soul is elevated, people who are divine, right? Wise people. That's what they call them, the high soul people. And then second thing is the Greeks know the word dark or black. They know because there's the word milas. They use the word milas or milanes all the time. Milanes, milos, etc. They even in theogony, if you read theogony, right, Erebus is called the dark man. Erebus is called the black man or the dark man. Erebus. But there's no time where the word Ethiopia means burnt face. Not anywhere in you find it. Even when you translate burnt, it doesn't mean it doesn't start with Ethiopia. I told you this. Face completely different, burnt completely different. They joined it together and they say it means burnt face. And every African, you took it and you ran with it and you went on believing that. And the same thing goes with the word Africa, the name Africa. The name Africa, a lot of Africans were taught that the Romans named the continent Africa. I don't know who told you, why they keep telling you things and you keep believing it. But the continent was not named by the Romans. The name Africa was not created by Romans. It existed previously. The name Africa comes from the word Afu, Ra, and Ka, or Afrika. It comes from that word. Initially, or Africa, initially the word referred to the story I wrote to you today, Mwetsi. When Mwetsi died, the people took Mwetsi to bury him in the ocean with his wife. When they buried him in the ocean, Mwetsi rose out of the ocean. So the word Africa or Afuraka comes from the name, the Egyptian word for the same Mwetsi. Mwetsi in Kemet is referred to the one they call Mwetsi. In Kemet, his name is Africa. That's where the word Africa comes from. It comes from him. His name is Afu or Afri. His name has always been Afri. Afu is never changed. Okay? Afu or Afri, the Ka of Afu or the Ka of Afri, means that when they buried him, when they put him in the water, he rose out of the water. He rose out of the water. That's where the word Africa comes from. It comes from they took him to the water and they buried him. And when he buried, he rose on the third day. On the third day, he rose out of the water. Okay, so the story goes for 27 days, he went through the suffering, the 27 days. And then finally he died. And they buried him. And on the third day, after they buried him in the west, he appeared in the east. He rose up in the east again. And that is how it was from that point on, the name Africa existed. Africa or Afu means the one who was the deity that existed, the one that they buried underwater, the one who was buried in under the water. That is where the name Africa comes from. It does not come from the Romans. The Romans heard about that name or that word from the Africans. The Romans, remember, Leo Publius Cornelius Scipio, his name was Publius Cornelius Scipio. When he conquered the people who were called the Afri or the Afu people, he took the name Afu or Africa. Africa. That's where he took the name. Just like when the Romans conquered the Greeks, they took the name Macedonicus, General Macedonicus. Just like when they conquered Asia or the people in Asia or Turkey, they called themselves Asiaticus. Just like when they conquered the Germans or the Rhine, they called themselves Germanicus. The name was common for Romans. When they conquer a powerful people, they would take the name of the people as a trophy. Okay? That is where lion or Leo Africana, meaning the lion of Africa, came into existence. Leo Africana means lion of Africa. For those of you who have no clue what Leo Africana means in Latin or the Roman dialect, it means lion of Africa. Lion of Africa was a term that existed in Libya, that existed all across Africa up to Mansa Musa's time. Lion of Africa always existed. It existed in the family or the lineage of Mansa Musa, the Soninke or the Sondiata. Sondiata means lion, right? Sondiata Kieta means lion. So the lion of Africa has always been a name that existed. And Leo Africanus, upon conquering the Africans with the help of Mansanisa, the Numidians, he took on the title Lion of Africa. He did not create the name Africa. He nowhere in shape created the name Africa. The name Africa was one of the first primordial names that existed in the cosmos. One of the most ancient and primordial names on the planet Earth, the oldest name that exists on planet Earth. Africa was that name, Afuraka. Leo Africanus, Lion of Africa, he took the title after because he saw that was what the Africans, everything in Africa was lion. I'm a lion. Emperor Haile Selassie, when he became king, what did he call himself? Conquering lion. Conquering lion. Everywhere in Africa, they call themselves a lion. Leo Africanus, his name is Publius Cornelius Scipio, Publius Cornelius Scipio. That's his name. Publius Scipio Cornelius. Leo Africanus is a title that emerged out of the continent. It always existed. Africa always existed. Lion of Africa, Lion of Africa, Lion of Africa has always existed. Never in the history as Africa has ever been created by foreigners. So Ethiopia was not created by foreigners, and it does not mean burnt face. And the second thing is Africa was not created by foreigners and is not a bad thing. Africa means the first man or the first being, the ancestor, the first ancestor that existed on planet Earth, Afuraka. That's where the name comes from. The first being on planet Earth, his name was Afuraka or Africa or Afri. That's the first being. It wasn't Adam. That was his name. That name was then, through time existed as the lion of Africa. Went on for many, many generations, fast forward until the Romans saw that being a lion or being courageous as a lion was what made the Africans acknowledge you. If you wanted to be acknowledged by the Africans, you would have to consider yourself a lion. You would have to identify with Africa and you have to identify with lion. So Publius Cornelius Scipio took it on. But nowhere in time was that name Africa created by Europeans. Never in the cosmos did it happen. And secondly, Ethiopia, nowhere in time did it mean the burnt faced people. Never in Hesiod's Theogony, day and night, night and day Theogony, or Homer's Odyssey, you do not find any word burnt face. No person do you read Diodorus Siculus, do you read Herodotus, do they mention them as burnt face? That burnt face only came into existence during the 1800s when colonial people, envying the African people, they hated the respect that the Greeks had for the Africans, so they corrupted the word to make Africans disassociate with it. And today, many confused Africans wander through the world and they disassociate with these type of things without knowing the truth. And again, even there's this channel on YouTube by this Hebrew Israelite sister. And over this weekend, she was talking about the name Jesus. She was talking about Jesus. She was saying, I searched all over in Hebrew. I couldn't find the name Jesus. I don't know, where did, And I told her, I said, the name is not Jesus. The name is Chi-Su. Chi-Su. And Chi-Su is not even a person. For those of you who don't know that this name, Chi-Su, is not a person, right? Chi-Su is a title. Chi-Su is a title, right? A title that more than one person has inherited through Africa. Chi-Su is a title more than one person has inherited throughout Africa's story. And that is why Africans are so addicted to this word. That's why Africans are obsessed with it, because their ancestral genetic memory is attaching to it. It's trying to latch onto the word, but the word has always existed. It is Chi-Su. Chi, T-C-H-I, Chi, and then Su. It means, this Chi means serpent, or Chi means the breath or the wind. And then Su means righteous, Shu means knowledge, Shu means consciousness, Shu or Su means consciousness, etc. So if you say, and Su can means a farmer as well. So Chi-Su can means divine farmer. Chi-Su can means a righteous sage, a sage, or Chi-Su can mean a wise person, and there has been more than one Chi-Su in Africa's story. There's been many of them. It's not a title that belonged to one particular person. It belonged to many. The first Chi-Su, or the first known to carry the title of Chi-Su, was Amun. Amun carried the title of Chi-Su, means the feathered serpent, or the serpent who wears the ostrich feather, right? That's the first person, is Amun. After Amun, the second person to wear the title of Chi-Su was Khonsu. Khonsu. Okay, Khonshu or Khonsu. Su means farmer, and Chi means the spirit. The farmer of the spirit, the farmer of the soul, the farmer of the divine essence. So that's what this original title was. This title has gone down for many, many generations. It's passed down to many, many people. The Greeks, upon creating their narrative, they took many, many different components and they brought it together in something called synchronicity. Synchronicity or synchronism. Synchronism. Through synchronism, they created a version, a persona called by the word. But the original word is Chisu. That's why if you want to go back in history, you can only travel so far, you will hit a roadblock. You will hit a roadblock. You will hit a dead end. So let's say you're traveling through history, you'll hit a dead end. Most people, Africans, the reason you hit a dead end anytime you're going to trying to figure out history, you hit a dead end. The reason you hit a roadblock, you hit a roadblock because you are not going back into the other part of the story, where now you enter the African part. You reach the Greek perspective over history. Greek perspective started at 300 BC, BC. 300, 150 BC, 50 BC, 0 BC. All this is Greek perspective. Now, anytime you're traveling back in time, when you reach 300, everything's going to stop right there. If you want the African perspective, you have to tell yourself, I need to go past 300 BC. I need to go to everything 19,000 BC. How do I know what happened 19,000 BC? How do I know what happened 50,000 BC? How do I know what happened 133,000 BC? How do I know? If you want to know that, you cannot use Greek perspective. You have to use the African perspective. And this is what a lot of Africans are not able to do. It's difficult for them to go because one, you built everything you are is built on from 2000 CE to 300 BCE. That is all that you are. Now you want to be more. How do you become more? How do you become something greater? How do you go further than 2300 BC, right? Or how do you go past 300 BC? In order for you to go past 300 BC, you can no longer use Greek. You can no longer use the way near North people write history. You have to now start saying, okay, African perspective. What is the African perspective? Why is it so hard for you to find the African perspective or for you to learn it? It's not difficult. It's that the first information you see in front of you is not going to tell you everything. It's going to tell you, give you clues and evidence, but it's not going to tell you everything. For example, the African perspective said, in the beginning, Mwari created the first man, Mwetsi, the moon. The Africans have already told you what was in the beginning. They already gave you an idea what is in the beginning. They've told you. In the beginning, Mwetsi created the first man. And now, or Mwari created the first man, Mwetsi, the moon. That means in the beginning, the moon was there, right? And the moon played a part on the moon in collision with the morning star. The moon and the morning star being in the earth atmosphere, that impacted the plant life. That caused plant to grow on planet Earth. It caused many things to happen. The earth was a barren waste, and then the morning star and the moon and the earth aligned, and they formed the Venus synodic cycle. It is this cycle that brought plant life on the earth, that brought agriculture and everything. And that is perfectly fine because the moon is responsible for plant cycle. Planet Venus is responsible for plant cycle. You wouldn't know this if you don't use the African perspective. Now, the next thing that follow in the story is, for a long period, the first morning star, the first human being or the first woman, she brought light. She brought fire. The first woman brought fire. The first woman, what did they say? It says, now let's continue here. It says, Masasi, the morning star, Mwari gave her fire and told Mwetsi she should remain with him for 2 years. So that means the Africans have told you that this morning star is going to stay for 2 years. What do they mean by the morning star staying for 2 years? The morning star stays for 9 months in the sunrise, and then it goes in the evening sunset. It stays for another 9 months. 9 months is how what it takes for a human woman to give birth. Human woman takes 42 weeks to create a human life. That 42 weeks, or that 9 months times two, is how long this particular Venus, planet Venus, and the moon, all of them were aligned for. Then it goes on to say, after this planet Venus left, or the planets separated, the moon, everything separated, what happens? 8 years before they aligned again. For 8 years before they aligned again. And this is how Africans understood the Venus synodic cycle. It takes 52 years for the sun to make one full rotation. 52 years according to the Africans. And that is all based on the Venus synodic cycle, the five-pointed star. The five-pointed star. Why do you think on planet Earth, every nation has a flag, and the flag has a five-pointed star? Why do you think? Every nation on planet Earth has a five-pointed star. You think they have it by, why is it, don't they have a six-pointed star, or a seven-pointed star, or a 10-pointed star? Why a five-pointed star? Because the five-pointed star symbolizes Venus. It symbolizes Venus, planet Venus. That is what the five-pointed star symbolizes. It is always meant planet Venus. Morning star, evening star. And that's what the ancient Africans are telling you. But you're so caught up on 300 BC, you don't know how to go past it. You have to train yourself. As an African, you have to train yourself. You have to teach yourself. I must let go of 300 BC. I must let go of those things. Especially the 1800, the things the Europeans came out of, they colonized Africa. They wrote all the book. They translated the whole history of the world. They created all the institution, and then they started to teach every African. And before you know it, you go to school, you learn it, you come out thinking that you've learned everything. You don't know a thing. Let's continue. Now, Mwetsi found nothing, and he complained, and Masasi gave him a woman, and Mwetsi said that she remained for 2 years. They went into the cave. The Africans tell you they went into the cave. So at this point now, you should know, what were the Africans doing at this point? They weren't living in houses. Our ancestors were not living in houses during this time. No. What were they doing? They were living in the caves. They were living in the caves. So that means if they were living in the caves, it means that the Africans, at one point, they traveled deep inside the caverns of the planet Earth. That means the Africans went deep inside the caverns of all the planet Earth. So every cavern that is under the African continent, all the tunnels that connect caves to caves to caves in the African continent, the Africans were aware of the caverns. They were aware of the caves. This is where the Twa people learned. They are called the masters of the caves. They're the masters of the underworld. They know everything, all the caves, everything that happens in the cave on planet Earth, the Twa people know. So if the ancient Africans said they went into the caves, at this point now, you should say, my ancestors have given me a clue. So after the Venus morning star left, or arrived, and the moon was there, they went in the caves. And during the period in the caves, they used fire because the nights were cold. That means there was a cold period, a cold flash happening on the earth. In this cave, what happened in the caves? Let's continue. So Mwetsi made fire. They went into the caves. Mwetsi made fire implements given to her by Muari. Mwetsi, uncertain as to why God sent the woman, touched her finger with oil, and then touched Masasi. The next morning, Masasi was pregnant, and she gave birth to plants, trees, and the earth. So another thing in the African culture is a woman being pregnant does not automatically equals children. A woman being pregnant, when Africans say a woman is pregnant, does not automatically equals giving birth to children. You don't know this because anytime you hear a woman is pregnant, you think in your brain, oh, sexual intercourse, children. No. Africans say she gave birth, she was pregnant, and she gave birth to plants, and she gave birth to trees, and she gave birth to this. That means it does not mean that every time they say a woman is pregnant, a woman gives birth to children. A woman can be pregnant and give birth to plants. A woman can be pregnant and give birth to them. And what does that mean? It means an idea or a something that she nurtured, something that she nurtured, something that she cultivated, something that she took time to create, to establish. That's what it means for a woman to be pregnant without giving birth to children. And this is where the concept of a virgin birth comes from. This is where a virgin birth comes from. A virgin birth is an African woman who is been pregnant in the mind, or she has developed something, or she has nurtured something that is not a human offspring, but a concept or a knowledge, a particular system. She has nurtured it and she has tended it to the point is it came as if it came out of her own womb. So that is what it means for a woman to be pregnant in the context of Africa. When a woman is pregnant with children, the Africans are not stupid. They are going to say she gave birth to children. Let's go in the story. Masasi was pregnant. She gave birth to plants and trees and covered the earth. Okay. And then after she died, her husband grieved for 8 years. So um, after when she passed away, he grieved for 8 years. The 8 years of her absence represents the synodic cycle. The Venus star, every 8 years on planet Earth, planet Venus makes 13 cycles. Okay, every 8 years on planet Earth, planet Venus makes 13 cycles. So 13 times 4 equals 52. 52 equals one solar rotation. So it means that the sun has completed one solar cycle. Every 52 years, the sun completes one cycle, solar cycle. And that is 13 years. Every 13 years, 13 times 4 equals 52. And then on planet Earth, that is what? Every 8 years, 8 times 4, 32. So 32. Okay. So it's very, very important for Africans to know that the ancient Africans did not just put words on the paper for no reason. They put words on the paper because these words had value. These words played an important part. So now let's come to the point where they say that, okay, Moetsi wanted to touch Morongo with his finger, his oil finger, but she said no. He must have intercourse with her. Moetsi did, and Morongo gave birth to animals. Later, she gave birth to human boys and girls. So the Africans now, they will tell you if a pregnancy gives birth to human boys and girls. They know the difference. They are not type of people who are confused. The thing with you is when you're reading African story, you're reading it like you're reading Latin. You don't read African stories like that. You read it by small, small pieces. One sentence or half a sentence equals an entire chapter. Half a sentence equals an entire chapter. And this is how things are for the African people. So now the African people tell you how the animals were created. And after the animals were created, they tell you how children were created. And then after the children came into being, they tell you that the human beings started to have incestuous system. They created a system of incest. And then when that system of incest became a punishment on them, They removed the system of incest. They got rid of it because it wasn't beneficial. They got rid of it. Now they buried their ancestor. When they buried him in the bottom in the ocean, he rose up. The moon rose up. So the idea is that the moon will will live for 27 days. Then the moon will disappear for 3 days, and the moon will rise out of the underworld. It will resurrect itself on the third day. It will resurrect itself on the third day in the east. And that is how the Africans understood what we call the cycles. So, Chisu, the moon, all these things are different portions of the story. However, it had been joined together by in 332 BC. The Greeks just mashed all of them together, created something, and that thing went on to become what everybody's addicted to today. You're all addicted to it because of that. So this is a conclusion for our lesson today. I think we understand that Ethiopia does not mean burnt face. Going forward, please do not tell yourself Ethiopia means burnt face. If you've read it somewhere, someone's told you it means burnt face, that is a lie. The word Ethiopia comes from Thi Upet. Upet is the mother of Thebes. Her name is Upet. She's the mother of Thebes. She's the first African woman who brought fire to planet Earth. Her name is Upet, Athi Upet, right? Thi means a sage. She was a great sage. Athi means a great sage. She was a great sage. Why? Because she brought agriculture. She brought farming. She's the one who brought millet. She brought knowledge of plants, herbals. That is why she's called the sage. On top of that, she's called the mother of fire, the mother of knowledge. So the word Athi Upet, if the Greeks got their hand of it, they said Ethiopia, Ethiopia, or Ethiopia. And then after time went by, it became Ethiopia. And now nobody knows the origin of the word. Nobody cares. Greeks come, 1800 colonialists tell you, say it means burnt face. You swallow it and you move on. Just like there are many, many things you don't know. And as we continue this story, I'm going to reveal them to you. Positive and creation energy to all. Anken Ubuntu to all. Tai and Ma'at to all. And Madi and Sia to all. The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. And the one who comes to learn is always welcome.